Podcasting from the Lone Star State in Southern California, you're listening to the Coma Podcast with Cody and Matt.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Coma Cast. This is May 4th, 2021, and we thank you for joining us for another week here on the Coma Cast. If you weren't with us on Friday's show or on Sunday's live show, of course, those happen every Friday at 5 o'clock Pacific, Sunday at 8:45 Pacific. But if you weren't, you didn't get to hear the news. It's really great news. Matt, you got into nursing school.
Oh, yeah. That's right, because I got in like literally 5 minutes before we did a live.
Yeah.
So this is a new week, and if you listen to the podcast, you guys know that I've been really trying hard to get into nursing school, and both David and I were accepted this round at the same time to the same school. At this point, we're both going to attend that school. David may take a different offer if one comes along for something that would be his number one choice, but either way, we are going. And we were very happy. In true form of life, Friday was really exciting. Can't really do anything, couldn't really celebrate, so we baked a cake. But today, Saturday, I woke up and just within an hour, I had a terrible headache, and it evolved into a migraine. So I spent most of Saturday with it, which is unfortunate, but still super, super, super excited. It's kind of all I've been thinking about. I finally opened my laptop late last night to try and read or to try and write.
Yeah.
I gave up on that. And so here we are today. So I was like, Monday we're going to do some recording and get going for the week. And I'm going to try to calm my brain down. I had to send back a letter. You have to send back they send you a release form. So I have to send back a yes, I want to continue the enrollment process, and send a release form. And then you get background check. I was background checked for round one in my first school, but they do it a little differently.
Yeah.
You're not accepted. They're just doing it. But since I'm in a different school, my fingerprints are already on file for the Board of Nursing, but they'll probably try to do them again. So I have to have a background check. I'll turn in all my vaccination stuff. And David and I do both happen to be fully vaccinated with COVID. We have, our little cards. And then we have to do a basic life support class. So we're probably going to try to do that this week and just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And other than that, we have to buy the kit. And I'm sure you guys will get a really excellent display because student nurses generally do not wear plain scrubs. Like some schools do where they look like normal scrubs. So it'll have like the school insignia on it, and you wear, of course, a student badge or wear something that indicates you're a student. But most schools wear kind of a hideous version of scrubs. They're scrubs. And I don't know if, Cody, you've ever seen student nursing uniforms.
I have not.
Yeah, it's great.
So we're going to get a fashion show?
Oh, God, yeah, probably. We'll have a good laugh. I won't wear them. I'll just take a picture, block out the insignia, and then just Cody can post a picture and we can all laugh about it. And you know what? I will wear them proudly because I'm super excited to be a nurse, and I'll get my gear, my stethoscope, and all of that. I'm so excited.
Well, I can't wait to see that, and so excited for you. And David.
Yes, I don't know when I'm getting that. I sent back the release form. I literally got this last night. We printed out the release forms Friday night, but we didn't send them back till last night because everybody's out of the office anyway until today. And you have until May 16th to send it back. And they're supposed to mail you an enrollment packet that lets you, you have to work through it and complete everything. And I'm just like, because, until day one starts, stuff can still go wrong. And it's like, oh God. So I get new things to be anxious about between now and August 23rd. But speaking of that, so Cody, I'm starting nursing school. What does this mean for the podcast?
Well, it means pretty much for everybody listening, it's all going to stay the same. They shouldn't notice too much of a difference. You'll still get your episodes each week.
We'll do a segment like, what did Matt see this week, and what what kept him awake at night? What kept him awake on a Friday night? Yeah. So my clinicals will be, this school does them Thursdays and Fridays. So you either have 6 or 12-hour shifts. They also have a simulation lab. And the simulation lab at our school can also function as a full functioning ER bay in case of a local disaster or emergency. People can be triaged and treated there. So I think that's pretty neat. So I'm excited to have access to that kind of equipment. The school's about 20 minutes away, but San Antonio is a big city. But despite that, there's only a handful of nursing programs accessible to you if you live in this area. And 3 of them are private schools. One of them is like $60,000. The other one's like $45,000. The third one is $20,000. And the one I'm going to is 7 or 8. And it's an associate degree in nursing. And it's insanely competitive. Like, even people, like, when you think of community college, you don't generally think of things as super competitive. And I also made that mistake. But for example, I applied to University of Texas over summer. Now, in a normal year, twice a year, they have 500 to 600 applicants per application period. They take the top 150 to 200. So David and I, with our averages, probably had a good chance of getting in round 1. But with COVID, they got about 11 to 1,200 applicants per thing. Plus, they have different things you can get to boost your score. So having really good grades, that's nice. So same thing. This school, same thing, but they get, I think they average about 500 applicants and take the top 100. So it's a smaller program, but it's highly respected. It's like 100 years old, but it's one of the only actual accessible programs in the whole area. The other one's a bachelor's in nursing, and you also have to think these are not designed for you to be able to work a normal job. So This one at University of Texas, their clinicals are Saturday, Sundays for 12 hours each day, and your classes are not on Zoom. You have online lecture, everything's uploaded, and you work on it asynchronously. And you just have to sit down and do it. I've worked on that style for a long time, so I wasn't concerned. But that's a whole lot more functional, and you can work during the week, at least 3 or 4 days if you can find a job. So we were like, oh, well, this works really well for us, and we don't have to quit our jobs. Yeah. So this program, and there's one other program here that David really, really wants, but we went down to 1 car this year because David was the only one working for the last 2 years, and then he got laid off when the pandemic was just starting. So we joined everybody else and going, well, shit. So if one of us goes to a different school, we have challenges that we have to work around. It can be done. It absolutely can be done. It just, we really want to stay to 1 car, and we also don't really want to work full-time career jobs. We want to focus on nursing school. So it's only for 4 semesters. And so we can have new careers after. We don't put that in jeopardy for the job that we need to work for insurance and mortgage, and that we don't even want, So there are challenges, and but I would still encourage anybody, if you ever want to do anything, to hell with it, go do it, because as long as you plan and keep looking, you will find a way through it. It just isn't. The plan for it may not seem as obvious on the surface, but once you start the process of doing something you really care about versus just showing up to work every day, you will be happier. And will I be a successful nurse? Maybe not. But at least when I'm 90, I won't be going, oh, wow, I wish I'd always tried that. I got this far,
Well,
but that's what has us talking.
That is exciting.
How we're gonna do this. Yeah.
You got in, so that was the big thing. Now it's just the process of how it's all going to work out.
It's a 4-semester process, and in some states, after you've done a semester of nursing school, you're allowed to work as a CNA, which is a certified nursing assistant. Well, not considered generally the most glamorous job, it's a very necessary job, and I have a lot of respect for that job. And if I'm allowed to work as one after a semester or so of nursing school, then that's probably what I would do, because I won't be able to go to school during the summer. This program is fall, spring. So it's essentially 2 years, but 4 semesters goes really fast. like when you're in it, I'm pretty sure the other day I was 32. I turned 35 this month, and I'm like, how happened? Cody's like,
time flies.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited for you, and I think the future is very bright for you. But as everyone we just mentioned, nothing will change here. So everybody will still be able to get and listen to us. So that's exciting. Let's get to some headlines here. So Joe Biden has nominated an out veteran, Gina Ortiz. He's nominated her as Air Force Undersecretary. Now, Jones served under military's don't ask, don't tell policy, but she will be the first woman of color in this position if she is confirmed.
That's really exciting. I love that for her.
Yes.
Speaking of administrations, in our former administration, if we all remember Rudy Giuliani, federal investigators searched Giuliani's home and office, and experts say it means he's in real trouble. The former New York City mayor and personal lawyer to former President Donald Trump is being investigated over possible illegal lobbying on behalf of Ukrainian officials and his efforts to dig up dirt on Trump's political rivals. I think we all remember the Biden laptop that suddenly disappeared. But Cody, didn't you take your laptop to the guy who couldn't see? When you're the
Totally.
When your dad is like a major political official and you take it to some out of the way, you took your Apple computer to somebody else. I also take my MacBook Pros to people that, are out in the middle of nowhere. Jeez. But legal experts say there are problems with this. Executing a search warrant is an extraordinary move for prosecutors to take against a lawyer, let alone a lawyer for a former president, writes the Times. While the warrants are not an explicit accusation of wrongdoing against Mr. Giuliani, it does show that the investigation has entered an aggressive new phase.
Well, this is a crazy one. And a GOP lawmaker was arrested after he's trying to be a substitute teacher, and he terrified the students. He allegedly kicked a student's groin, asked teens about their masturbation habits, and ranted about a foster child that he claimed attempted suicide because of lesbian parents.
As somebody who was raised by their grandparents because he couldn't be raised by his parents,
There is video if anybody wants to check it out. But
first video, Jesus. Wow. This is one that actually just really disturbed me, and that people should know that things like this still happen in 2021. A black man enslaved by his white boss for 5 years should be given $546,000 in compensation, a court ruled. In 2019, Bobby Paul Edwards was sentenced to 10 years in prison for enslaving an employee. Edwards coerced John Christopher Smith into working 100 hours a week without pay. He had an intellectual disability, and an appellate court recently ruled that Smith is entitled to $546,000 in restitution, as he would also beat him with a belt, fist, and pots and pans.
So crazy.
That is, it's freaking disturbing. But it does still happen.
It does. Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has urged the members of the Family Research Council to run for school boards nationwide. He told the podcast listeners that they should proselytize in the workplace under the guise of religious freedom and then get elected to public office to defend it. And side note, the FRC, the Family Research Council, has been designated a hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And those are some of your headlines for today. Coming up next, we are going to be talking, we mentioned this on our live shows, but it's a crazy clip from MSNBC. A governor came on to talk about trans bills, and specifically the trans bills concerning sports. And he could not defend the bill very well at all. And we'll be discussing that and more kind of the whole situation of trans bills. That's all coming up next. And we are back. So the topic today we're going to be talking about is we've mentioned it a lot because it's such an important topic, and there's so many bills happening around the country right now. And this is concerning trans bills. There's so many of them, but a lot of them are targeting trans youth, specifically in school sports. There's around 50 bills just at last count at state legislatures across the country that are targeting trans youth. Again, for no reason. Nothing has brought this up other than their hate for trans people. Because
it's just a distraction. It's just like how in the last administration, our community was an absolute punching bag for anything, any minority group, whatever the thing was, just to distract from. And all it was to distract from the massive amount of crime that was happening, and just as we talked about earlier, how Rudy Giuliani's apartment and office were raided. We've seen this thing going on with Matt Gaetz and Greenberg and Roger Stone. All of these things were happening. And how is anybody even investigating on this? Well, yes, we all can do more than one thing at one time. The national attention was focused on. It's very sad that it's not just someone said something controversial. It's that these laws and all these things are being done in the name of being a red herring. And you think of how big of, you have a sibling, Cody. If you were going to do something that you needed to distract because you were going to do something real bad, and you were like, you know what? I got a sister. There's a target. You would have to do the bigger the thing that you're going to do, the bigger the distraction you need. And what better way to snag headlines by doing one awful thing after the other and targeting the children? Know that your base is going to rally against children. They rally against children in the name of protecting the children, because that's the religious have always done a great job of protecting the children. Thank you, Duggar family, for your beautiful Christian values that you refuse to shut up about. God damn.
We saw in the past few years a lot of bills for bathroom bills. Many of those did not pass, thankfully. And so now they're giving it a try at all these trans bills. And unfortunately, it seems that a lot of them are passing. One such thing in the state of West Virginia, and the governor went on MSNBC. He probably shouldn't have done that because it didn't turn out, I think, like he wanted it to turn out. And basically, he got schooled by the anchor. Of course, the anchor only brought facts. There was no opinion pieces in this. She only brought facts.
His opinion, and she advised him that he was stupid, basically.
Yeah, and so here's that clip.
The law you just signed banning transgender female athletes from playing on women's school sports teams. Can you name one example of a transgender child trying to gain an unfair competitive advantage at a school there in West Virginia?
Well, Stephanie, I don't have that experience exactly to myself right now, but I will tell you this.
Not yourself, your state, sir. Can you give me one example of a transgender child trying to get an unfair advantage? Just one in your state. You signed a bill about it.
No, I can't really tell you one, but I can tell you this, Stephanie. I'm a coach, and I coach a girls' basketball team. And I can tell you that we all know what an absolute advantage boys would have playing against girls.
But, sir, you have no examples of this happening. Why would you take your time to do this? Let's talk about other things that I can give you examples of in your state. According to U.S. News and World Report, West Virginia ranks 45th in education, 47th in healthcare, 48th on the economy, and 50th in infrastructure. If you cannot name one single example for me of a child doing this, why would you make this a priority? I just named 4 things that would seem to me like a much bigger priority.
Well, Stephanie, I didn't make it a priority. It wasn't my bill.
You signed it.
I mean, it's just come to me, and I have absolutely signed it because I believe, from the standpoint of a coach, I believe that girls work so hard to obtain Title IX. And I do not have any idea now why we are trying to disadvantage them in participating in the sport that they put so much into. I don't know why we're doing that. This is not like it's a big priority to me. In fact, I think we only have 12. No, Stephanie, listen. I think we only have 12 kids maybe in our state that are transgender type kids. I mean, for crying out loud, Stephanie, I signed hundreds of bills. This is not a priority to me. But with all that, I would say I think that it would impose an unfair disadvantage on the girls. And so from that standpoint, I support it.
All right, then, sir. Thank you. And please come back when beyond anecdotal feelings as a coach, you can show me evidence where those young women are being disadvantaged in your state, because I can show you evidence about how ranking that low in education is disadvantaging young women and men in West Virginia. Thanks for your time.
And that was that.
But that's the thing. There was a woman that won in Georgia years ago. I think she was the one that might have beat Abrams initially, where she was like, they're like, why do you feel that LGBT people can't be parents? Like, what is your evidence? She's like, it just is. And you know what? She fucking won. So they don't care about science. They don't care about that it's actually true. They know what they're imagining. I think the thing that they promote is some 300-pound quarterback trying to show up and beat down the girls on the basketball court. That is not what happens. You and I both know that. And anybody that would probably tend to watch our shows, our podcasts, and interact with us also know that. And it's amazing because these kids just want to play a sport. It's a fucking game.
Yeah.
Game. That's it.
I do think you're right in that that is the thought process for people who don't pay attention. They're just on seeing headlines and they're not actually researching these topics. I'm speaking of conservatives. They are imagining this big man going, and like a lot of it comes up with wrestling.
I will tell you, my family literally have. I'm sitting here. My family, my very conservative family, have a gay son and brother. My one sister, counting her half sisters and me and everything, she has a gay daughter, two lesbian sisters, a gay brother. She don't know shit about the community.
Yeah.
And so this is exactly something she would probably be the one sitting there supporting this. And I'm just like, nothing.
We've seen in recent times conservatives latch onto these points. They've tried it recently. Like with Biden, they've not been able to stick anything with Biden specifically. They've been having a hard time, and they try. If you watch Fox News or look at any conservative websites, they try putting out headlines, this and that. Most recently, there was like, he wants to get rid of hamburgers. You can't have any red meat.
Oh my God, that was ridiculous. Like, this is what you guys are doing? You guys are taking a recommendation and saying, Biden did, you're not going to be able to have me. Look, bitch, I've seen you guys. You guys will probably live a lot longer if you dialed it down on the burgers a little bit, okay?
Yeah, so
they know red isn't good for you.
They put these headlines out there like that and trying to catch something. They obviously didn't with that. They didn't with Potato Head. They didn't with Dr. Seuss. And this is one instance where they are gaining some traction. It is something that is hitting and it's sticking. And so in all these states, I think just in Texas, there's 6 bills targeting trans youth or trans families, families who have trans kids. 6 bills in Texas. It's one of the states with the most bills now that is in the legislatures.
Is if they get through, I think the ACLU and similar companies will continue to sue because, one, you can promote this bullshit all you want, but Texas promotes their family-friendly laws. Well, most of these major corporations are fairly liberal, and they depend on their employees. So, yeah, it might be advantageous of them to take our side, but if it means their profits, they're going to do it. So, yeah, if the worker relationship is these corporations are going to side with us, ultimately that's what's going to happen because, yeah, they're going to get their way for a while, but large amounts of Texas, it looks huge and conservative. These are tiny places that mean nothing. Yeah. So when it comes to popular votes, they'll eventually get pushed down and slammed down because Austin, Dallas, San Antonio were very, very large areas. And I think that, yeah, there are going to be some ugly things that go through. My biggest fear is that, the increase in students harming themselves or being targeted for ridicule or abuse or worse. Hence this whole podcast, and it does happen. I don't want to speak it into existence or anything, but there's an entire reason this podcast exists. Somebody argued with me on my alt account that, well, trans kids need to suck it up because it's just the way the world is. No, it is not the way the world is. The world is dirt. what the fuck? No, it is you. It is people like you that go out of your way to target people who wear things that maybe you choose not to wear. I'm sorry that you don't look good and you don't feel like you look good in a dress and heels, but she does. Deal with it. What does it hurt you? You know, it's just amazing. But corporations have come to find out that when their employees can feel safe being themselves, they turn out the best work. And that's all a corporation. A corporation doesn't care what your hair looks like. Not really. They're figuring it out. Apple figured it out. That was the biggest thing when I came to work for Apple in 2008, that you don't care about your hair, how you wear your clothes, your piercings, as long as you're covered appropriately, you know, like certain things can't be hanging out. They do not care. And you know what? Incredibly high employee satisfaction. And companies are following suit. And when you have unfortunately, we shouldn't have to have the backings of corporations to survive. That's why we have Pride as presented by, you know, Chase and stuff like that. But when you have these essentially $1 billion backers, that's what makes things move for us and supports us, because the tax laws in Texas are very business friendly. You know, we don't have state tax laws and all these wonderful things that make it great for businesses. So yeah, you have the Texas family values that we have to fucking hear about all the time. It's exhausting. But when major companies are bringing their headquarters here, it brings in, I mean, that's why David and I are here. I would never have voluntarily moved to Texas outside of work. As one, I didn't know anything about it. And two, there are some really good reasons to not move to Texas. But, you know, people do not care that we get hate crimed here. When I was in Orlando, one of the bartenders from Southern Nights, who's one of the bars in Orlando, he was here in Texas, and I think it made the news. He was assaulted after he walked out of a bar here, and he survived, but he was horribly beaten. And the general feeling, even in Orlando, this conversation happened at Southern. We were talking about it there, and someone goes, well, he shouldn't have gone to Texas where we're not welcome. He kind of had, you know, I'm like, my 18, 19-year-old ass was just like horrified that no, he didn't deserve it for walking out. He wasn't touching somebody. He wasn't, he wasn't doing something he shouldn't have been doing. He was literally walking out of a bar that he was at. He's an adult. He's allowed to be there.
That's one of the things, especially with these trans bills, is that they're young students, and you know, they can't really defend themselves. They're obviously still growing mentally. They haven't experienced a lot.
Well,
and so
it's zero tolerance bully policies of person A can walk over and sucker punch the transgender kid and the trans kid, and both of them get suspended for a week.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
So, you know, it's up to people like us, people who have a voice, and older people who can speak out. I don't want to just say us, because I think anybody who's around our age or older, even people who are in their late 20s, need to speak up. I don't think that I don't think that you have a position these days to sit back and not say something. I think you have to speak up in some form or fashion.
To be more like neutral when things, you know, it's like, be neutral when you can, but this isn't one of those things you can. Like, even losing one trans kid is too much, we shouldn't have to. It's not. There's no reason to. These are baseless attacks. These kids just want to play their sports, go home. It's middle school and high school.
So, hey guys, we want to remind everyone that you can keep in touch with us on all of our social media channels, whether that is Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can do all of that at the ComaCast.
And we definitely love to interact and hear from all of our listeners. All of this is not possible without you guys.